deplatformed, you are canceled, you are eradicated, even someone with your stature.
Yeah, I was on a long time, 38 years, and you make one mistake. I thought I could have come on and corrected it on a Saturday. I thought I could have put a tweet out or whatever they do and corrected it and said I should have said everybody. But that's the way it works, and that's the way it is now in the media. You better be very careful. The people that are for me, the silent majority, they are silent, and the other people, and we won't go on who it is, and that they listen to them, and it's too bad. You know, I'm gone. I could have smoothed this out pretty good on Saturday, but that you can't whine about it. I'm not whining about it. That's the way I feel, and it's too bad that David, things happen like that, but that they happen, and there's no sense of crying over spilled milk.
But Mr. Cherry, tell me, do you think there is a double standard in this country right now? We just had a prime minister in the last election campaign exposed for multiple times wearing blackface and brownface, so many times he can't even remember himself. We had a candidate, Jamie Batista, in Nova Scotia, who said that when he sees a thin native girl, it reminds him of, I think his words were, a meth addict. And he gets elected. The media go out of their way, it seems, to ignore or even make excuses for this kind of outright racism. And yet, with you, with this one line, they lose their minds. Why is that? Is it maybe that somebody who's right of center is judged differently than those who are left of center?
I really don't know. David, you're going to have to figure that out yourself. I know one thing. I am a right-winger, and I've always been a right-winger. And I don't know about those other things, but I know one thing. I'm gone, and I don't know what else to say. And I feel bad about it. I would have liked to gone on and finish the season, at least this year. But you know, like I say, you make two little words, and you're gone, and that's the way it is. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's the way the world is today, and that's the way it is in the world of entertainment, as they say.
But you know, Don, the crux of the matter is that what if what you said was right? I mean, I don't think there's any studies looking at how many newcomers wear or don't wear the poppy. Maybe it's all anecdotal evidence, but maybe just through a lack of education, a lack of knowledge of our traditions, they aren't wearing the poppy. What I'm saying is maybe you stated something that is indeed accurate, but are we at a point that stating something truthful, if it's hurtful or offensive to somebody, means you get canceled?
Well, proof is in the pudding. I'm gone, and I don't know what else to say. That I don't know about those other things that you talked about. I know one thing, that I feel bad that I would have liked to have gone on for another, at least, finish the season. But that's the way they feel at Sportsnet, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Don, can we talk about those who have come out in support of you, of what's happened? I mean, I've sort of scanned the headlines. Great friends of yours, Bobby Orr, Doug Gilmore. Have you heard anything from them?
Oh, I've heard from Bobby, and I've heard from a lot of people that I don't want to name about it, but I've heard from a lot of hockey players. I've heard from a lot of people, and they feel bad that I'm gone. And, I've been around, and I've known them for 30-some years, like I said, and they feel bad I'm gone. And my wife feels bad I'm gone, and I feel bad. I would have liked, I said, I would like to go, but there's nothing you can do about it. You got to take the bitter with the sweet, and you got to hold your head up high and keep your chin up.
Don, I understand, too, that you were somewhat disturbed that the announcement was made on November 11th. A lot of people have observed, if this had to happen, why couldn't Sportsnet wait for the next day, November 12th? Why take the focus away from the Veterans and Remembrance Day?
I have no idea. You'd have to ask them. And it's kind of ironic that I would get canned on Remembrance Day with all those guys died. I guess I died, too, with them. And I have no idea. You'd have to ask them.
Don, I know you don't have much time. What is the future for Don Cherry? You are a national icon in the eyes of millions of Canadians. You're a household name. You're one of the few remaining that call it as you see it. Will there be a competing network? Have you had talks already with other media outlets, or are we in such a cancel culture right now that even someone like you, for politically incorrect language, according to some, is now suddenly persona non grata?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. That I haven't heard from anybody, and I have no future in television. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm not doing bad on radio and that right now, but no, I have no I have no future so far, and I've heard from nobody. And maybe you're right. Maybe that's the way things are.
Thank you so much for your time, Don.
So, there you hear it. To me, Don seems to be very wary of the industry now. I wouldn't say he has no interest in being on TV, but I definitely think it's highly unlikely that he'll return to TV anytime soon. To answer a question that Dave Menzies posed about the poppy, what I think happened as a consequence of multiculturalism policy, what nobody talks about is, in schools, Canadian people are not educated about Canadian patriotism. And I can say that very distinctly as a subject of the educational system here in Canada. We're taught to value multiculturalism above everything, which I suspect now is more like propaganda, because when I was in school, we were taught to essentially idolize Pierre Trudeau, whom I later found out accumulated the most debt this country has ever seen among the prime ministers. Pierre Trudeau Sr. was the reason for the great Canadian debt that nobody talks about, because of course fiscal policy is not important in class. And it took a friend of mine to point it out. When you look at Americans, we're taught about that in school. It's called the melting pot, where you come in, your culture and your identity is more or less stripped, and you must adopt being American, and they portray it in a very negative frame, as if you're losing something. You don't lose anything. Your past is still a part of you. Your religion, your ethnicity is still part of you. But the difference is that the Americans, they have a great American identity that is definitely is definitely patriotic. Let's put it like that. When they say "in God we trust" as a nation kind of idea, it's a very, very powerful meaning. They put it on their bill, of course. So the founders were wise enough to instill in their Constitution a great sense of American pride, American patriotism, love for one's country. And I'm sorry to say, in Canada, that has to be formed by people around you and not in an institution, educational institution. In university, it's not even, it might even be a taboo subject now. You know, if you speak privately with people, of course they say, of course we love the Canada and so on and so forth. But what is the government actually doing to promote love and patriotism for Canada itself, if they're doing things like this to a Canadian icon as it is? I think there is an element that's missing in Canada, and that element is definitely for anybody. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I'm just speaking from personal experience when I was growing up, that of course you sing the national anthem and so on, but you're never really taught to love Canada and to display patriotism for Canada. The thing that Don Cherry was talking about, and I might have mentioned it in a previous video, but I'll just repeat it again now, wasn't exactly an address to, it wasn't a racist address in its sentiment. It was more along the lines of, if you move to this country, value the current ideals that built this country, that made this country free. And one of those ideals is the sacrifice that the veterans made in World War I and World War II, sacrificing their lives or limbs or whatever, and to remember them and to honor them by wearing a poppy. So in that sense, you can see he not only addresses immigrants, though he names immigrants, he addresses Canadians that have forgotten that value and the sacredness behind that value and the importance behind the value, and moreover, the importance for future generations to uphold that value. So, the anecdotal evidence aside, I feel the same thing. I don't think there's enough, let's call it, in the general population that genuinely care and respect that kind of idea anymore. It's slowly but surely fading away. And the fact that he can, it's ironic that he can be on Remembrance Day fired for defending veterans. It's just, it's worse than irony. It's a punishment of somebody who is righteous and good, being condemned for something that was construed in a way that's twisted from its original meaning. So essentially, he's being punished for nothing. It was a pretense to fire him, let's say. Because many of the people who've watched him know he says a lot of controversial things in the past, but he's always, freedom of his right to speak has always prevailed. But as soon as he starts attacking, in the speech, it's not attacking immigrants. The sentiment in the speech is not attacking immigrants. It's attacking anybody who doesn't want to honor the tradition of wearing a poppy for Remembrance Day and subsequent days before and after. So he's commenting on that. And 10 years ago, if you made a sentiment like that, there'd be a lot more people who are with you, and he definitely wouldn't get fired. At worst, it would get blown off. Because, you have to look at the atmosphere of the times, which is hard to study in history if you weren't there. So study the atmosphere of this time. Look at how even when David Menzies, of course, who got political, is trying to bring up his sentiment about Trudeau and so forth to see, of course, Don wisely avoids that entanglement. So, look at the atmosphere. Do you feel free to say what you like without the threat of losing your legitimacy, let's say? I'll tell you, it's slowly but surely disappearing. Freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of speech is slowly disappearing, fading away. And compassion is, well, I would call it pseudo-compassion, but so-called compassion for whichever group appears to be wronged at the specific time and circumstance is the reason that it's happening. So I encourage every one of you who will see this video, don't be like that. If something is troubling you, if something stands out that's out of place, that's clearly wrong, speak against it. And ignore there will be punishment or maybe consequence for sure, but I think that in the grand scheme of things, that suffering will only be temporary and something good can come of it. I hope many of you feel the deep and injustice and disgrace it is to fire somebody like this who is known for speaking his mind and no bullshit. There is a element of freedom that needs to be respected when one makes, even if in passing it's not meant to be offensive, but this is the point. Whether offensive he intended or not, it's still punishable. So in that way, it's like speech is being legislated or guilted or condemned in such a way that the public has to reprogram the way they think and the way they speak. And you'll notice it when Don answers these questions, how very careful he is now to form the words. No more, he thinks, the Canada that he remembers is gone. Now here we are in the Canada that exists today, and that Canada means you have to choose your words with extreme care and caution. What kind of Canada is this that we're living in at this moment? It is a disgrace, and it causes me deep anger for somebody trying to defend veterans and people who died for this country. That is a disgrace to put that person down, to make them lose their job, their livelihood. And I'm sure Don Cherry is a Canadian patriot. He loves his country with all his heart. Why on earth would he care about the holiday if he didn't? Why make trouble about it? He cares. It's not a joke. For many people, Remembrance Day, okay, well, we're observing this holiday, just another day in the week. No. Our Canadian traditions and our Canadian values are being destroyed very slowly, very subtly, by a cunning way. The snake comes in and destroys everything. Look at the society as it exists. Don't let your emotion get involved. Look at dispassionately how it exists. You can find a lot of evidence already that freedom of speech here is no longer what it was. In the name of compassion and so on, they restrict our right to speak a great deal. And there are truly grave consequences for any breaches of these things. But I think that Don should move on and keep going. I don't think he should allow himself to stop. If possible, he can remain prominent in radio, but I hope that he has the courage to come back on TV by hook or by crook and get his word out there, because even so, he's been chastised here, you can see. He should not give up his position. But at the same time, he may not have the stomach for fighting like this anymore. It's amazing how a threat to one's family in this matter, his income and so forth, that notwithstanding, but his job and so on, it's so important for his family to function, and for himself as a successful individual to function. Now his job is gone. What now? You can see he doesn't have an answer. It is a tragic loss. I cannot understate it enough. It's a sign and an example that should not be ignored. Canada's freedom is being restricted. Make no joke about it. Your freedom of thought, your freedom to speak, watch it slowly disappear. I bring it back to the issue that there's something wrong with the schools not teaching our generations more about Canadian patriotism, why we should love Canada as it exists. How is it that we have enjoying our free democracy here? Why that's important. So many countries on this earth are suffering, real suffering, death, and here we enjoy our freedom. So I think that Don Cherry did something here that should cause concern for everyone, not for the reason that the press said, but rather, please note this example. Don is not somebody who I consider to be a threat for anybody. No, I think Don is a very, very true Canadian in his heart. And what he said is something that addressed Canada, a deep problem that exists in Canada, and he couldn't stomach it anymore, and he had to say something. So I thank you for your time and attention, and please comment what you feel about this, because I tell you it's something we should discuss. This matter is a very deep problem that needs the discussion. So I thank you for your time and attention. Goodbye.